Every day we talk to our neighbours, our work colleagues, friends and family, and we hear about the increased cost of living for the basics like electricity, gas, water, even fresh wholesome foods. We hear about the poor schooling and health standards and the cuts to public services and the seemingly endless fines, penalties, registration, fees and tolls for just about every moment of our daily lives. Then we turn on the TV and there's more bad news. Another environmental catastrophe, or more refugees, or more innocent victims in war zones. And most of us are really just trying to make ends meet in our own lives, and we see these images and we feel helpless to do anything about it. And I think the deep shame we feel about that is paralysing, and certainly one of the reasons that we turn away. What if there was something you could do about it in almost any situation on a personal level that could translate to a local, state, and eventually a national level? What if that something was actually doing, well, almost nothing? To understand the solutions, we first have to understand the problems.
You want to will not remove yourself, sir. I will call the police and all councillors.
The understanding of the problem came in the most unexpected way. It came when active community members attended and recorded the last and what was supposed to be a very run-of-the-mill local council meeting in Melton in mid-December 2012. That was known as Pirates of the Suburbs Part 1. That fateful meeting was the opening of Pandora's box. It was the micro view of a macro problem. The following presentation will be made in 5 parts. Part 1 will give you an overview. It's essentially a summary of our first instalment of Pirates of the Suburbs. This will help bring you up to speed. It's advisable though that you watch Part 1 if you can. In Part 2 we'll talk about the reaction and our follow-up. We'll give you a detailed description of the events that followed that meeting, including the media coverage and of course the response from the council through the media and police. We'll talk about the flood of information that followed from residents in entirely different municipalities that had experienced in fact far worse situations at the hands of their local councils that are beyond the comprehension of common sense and good governance. Part 3 takes a look at the end game. What's the point of all of this, and who really stands to benefit? Part 4 will take a glimpse into the future and what it holds for us if we allow things to continue the way they are. And Part 5, well, that's my favourite part. That's where we talk about solutions. And guess what? The solution is us. So here's a summary. On December 13, 2012, we attended a meeting at Melton City Council. This was a special one because the council was going to vote on a motion for constitutional recognition. The meeting was being video recorded by one of the residents. The questions during question time were not being answered by the CEO.
Committee to explore constitutional recognition of local government. Could you please clarify the necessity to make a formal submission to the committee to explore constitutional recognition of local government, and the necessity to resolve the uncertainty surrounding the Commonwealth ability to continue to provide direct funding to local councils? This clarification can be made by answering the following questions. Question 1. Can you state what the proper purpose of a referendum is? A, is it a tool used by government to seek clarification from the people, or is it a tool for government to seek consent from the people? A referendum is a to a positive question does not imply a yes vote to the negative question.
Worse than that, they were belittling the residents' genuine concerns, and it sent a message in not so many words that the residents were either not entitled to participate in any of the business of the council or to seek clarification on any of the information sought.
So I doubt very much that there will be residents of the City of Melbourne on that committee. It will be headed by, I presume, a Member of Parliament or a person.
When the residents began to hold the council to account for the answers they deserve, the council incredibly abandoned the meeting.
Will any of our councillors be involved in that?
It is actually a committee made up, so the recommendation is actually, the Municipal Association of Victoria are asking for submissions, so that our council, as the recommendation is, the motion is stating, our council is putting in a submission for local council to be formally recognised in the Constitution. So through the Municipal Association of Victoria, which then Mr. Tory has mentioned that it will be a federal member of Parliament.
So will any of the local people be involved in any way, shape or form?
As I said, the committee
So the answer to that question is no local people will be involved.
Sorry, ma'am.
the question should be directed to the federal government whose committee it is. It's not council's jurisdiction to determine who's on the committee. So perhaps you should approach your
The
local
council is
federal
putting a
member.
submission now, isn't they?
We'll be putting
The
a...
motion is that it will be putting a submission, as did the last council resolve, that this council, saying with this council is resolving that local council should be recognised in the local.
So don't you think you should go back to constituency people and find out if they want to go through this?
Yeah. I think the this is the question.
Can I please have order, Mr.
Well, shush, this is a democracy, don't
sorry.
you? Hey, we can't talk anything, but we can listen. All the best.
Sir, could I ask you again to remain silent?
The gentleman asked a direct question. Will local people...
This is not a forum for questions, madam. The local law states that the gallery shall remain silent. If you don't like that, I will kindly ask you to leave.
Clarification, madam.
That's right.
You said this is not a forum for question. Can you organise?
Mr.
These
Stop,
people
I'm
pay
sorry,
for
sir.
you.
Can I please have order? Can I please have order?
I seek clarification to the question.
Sir,
You
have you
must.
put in ask
For
for your
questions about
silence?
this case, yes or no?
You either have the opportunity,
Hang on, just wait a second.
you will either have the opportunity.
You might have stated that.
I'll direct you to the chamber.
You might have
If
stated
you will
it,
not
madam
remove
Mayor,
yourself,
and
sir, I will
hold
call
on a
the
second.
police and I
Why
will
can't I
call the
talk?
security and remove you.
I'm seeking clarification on your statement.
have no control over
Councillors,
people. Don't
councillors,
forget,
I
you're a
ask that you
corporation
remove
with
yourself
an
from the
AGM. You have
chamber.
no control over us.
Having realised that this undemocratic behaviour was being caught on film, the Mayor Kathleen Majalik, within a minute of resuming the meeting, asked the lady with the video camera to cease recording on the basis of a local law.
Can I just stop you there? The lady that's recording at the moment, subject to clause.
The lady refused, of course, on the basis of two legislated parliamentary acts that protected her right to do so. And just as expected, the Mayor ran roughshod over those rights and made threats to call the police and have her thrown out before abandoning the meeting for the second time.
Madam,
The Recording Devices Act entitles me to.
subject to clauses 30C, it is not in our local laws. I will ask you to remove your camera. I will ask you to remove yourself.
I'm sorry, I won't be doing that. I'm entitled to record.
Subject to clauses 30C, I and II.
The Mayor did indeed carry out those threats and called in the police to intimidate the resident into compliance.
Via written consent.
But if the
Council.
Is that mandatory by law?
That is the meeting procedure local law number 2, 2000.
The council law, not really.
I'll ask
stand up, but in
By which authority are you
councillors, I ask you to adjourn.
Can you create a
once
forum
more.
for debate?
Thank you.
Can you give us the answers?
Can you create a forum for debate? If you don't want to talk
We are waiting for the answers.
set a date.
The legislated right of the resident to record the proceedings was explained to the policeman, but that too fell on deaf ears. Four days later, on the 17th of December 2012, the council had another meeting to conclude the first one. Essentially, the meeting was purely a ceremonial one to pass the motion to make a submission to the Municipal Association of Victoria. This happened despite the protest of the residents. In fact, how the motion was passed over all the noise is beyond us. In any event, that meeting carried on and the motion was passed as if the residents weren't even present. When the meeting concluded, we spoke with Calvin Torrey, the CEO, and advised him that under the Local Government Act, the council must provide the precise provision that they were using to enforce the no recording local law, and that they must provide a copy of the minutes bearing the signature of the councils and the seal of the council through which the local law was created. Not only did he state that he didn't know that, but he also came back to us with the same unsealed, unsigned copy we had already seen on the internet. This same copy had no commencement date and no revocation date. We also pointed out that the Mayor quoted a 2004 local law, yet what we were being shown was a 2005 local law.
Is that mandatory by law?
That is the meeting procedure local law number 2, 2000.
The council law, not really.
Well, after waiting for over an hour, the Customer Liaison Manager gave us a copy of the minutes from the 2004 meeting and claimed that this was the copy we were after. Well, there's quite a few problems with that. For one, it's not the copy on the internet that they were relying on to impose the no recording bylaw, and the years are completely different. There's no mention of a $500 penalty, except of course if you're disrupting the meeting and you're called to order. And there is certainly no mention of recording proceedings or seeking permission to do so. And most importantly, it's still unsigned, it's still undated, has no commencement date and no revocation date, and of course doesn't bear the seal of the council. After some time, we were told that the document we were looking for was in off-site storage and that it would be forwarded to us within a week. We got a letter to that effect. Well, we waited the week, and now, more than 4 months later, they continue to impose a bylaw that they have yet to prove even exists. What's worse is that the council make false allegations against the residents in order to ensure police support, continue this behaviour and fail to govern themselves by their own laws even after they're aware of their legal obligations, and in the same breath demand, not earn, demand respect. Incredibly, this is the same group of people seeking constitutional recognition. If this is what we can expect from a group of people with no real authority, imagine what we'd be in for if we gave them some real power. You'd have to have rocks in your head to even consider it. We released the first instalment of Pirates of the Suburbs on the 31st of December 2012. In the first week of January, we posted the video as well as the notice to every councillor by email, on Facebook, and some even got it on CD. The notice required council, as is our right, to to provide evidence that they were a legitimate arm of government, with the default position being that they were a private corporation masquerading as government, in which case the notice called for the resignation of the CEO and the councillors, with a view to somehow return the council to its proper function within the community. We contacted Jack, who was the policeman that you see in part 1, hoping to arrange a meeting with our local police just to let them know who we are, what we're doing, and what our intentions were. We got a call from Jack some weeks later, and this was because someone had sent him an email of the video. When we met with Jack, he was quite pleasant, and during the meeting, Nicole Warner, who introduced herself as the sergeant, asked if she could join our chat because she was aware of what had occurred, and she had also spoken with the people at Melton Council. Nicole was quite sympathetic as we discussed the many issues in our community. We agreed to keep in touch and let them know about our activities. True to our word, we wrote an email to Nicole to let her know of our meeting on the 31st of January. The secondary purpose of the meeting was to also reserve the notice. Apparently, no one in council knew about the notice. Well, that's really odd, because on the 12th of February, that is 12 days later, we received a letter from Kelvin Tory that was in response to a question posed at question time that says, and I quote, "I advise that I am aware of the YouTube video entitled Pirates of the Suburbs, and all councillors were made aware of the video by council administration." The letter continues by saying, "The notice, as you refer to it, contains no legal authority or basis to require council or any of its councillors, staff, servants or agents to provide an affidavit in relation to any matter whatsoever, nor in the absence of such affidavit to comply or acknowledge any of the claims, demands or allegations contained in such notice." What that means is that the council doesn't have any obligation whatsoever. No obligation, whether it be legal, implied, actual, moral, to answer any of your questions. But hey, look at the bright side, folks. This is good news. What that means is that you, the ratepayer, also have no obligations to answer any notices, and that would include rates notices. I mean, you can't just have a one-sided agreement. So I guess if the burden of proof is on the ratepayer, then that cuts both ways. So next time Melton residents receive a notice from Melton Council, perhaps they should reply, "The rates notice, as you refer to it, contains no legal authority or basis for council to require me to pay, etc., etc., etc." You get the idea.
I'm just going to go inside for a moment and just see whether the councillors prefer for the announcement to be made inside where they can hear it, or if they want to come outside and hear the announcement. Okay, won't be a moment.
Right, what do you expect to happen from this?
Well, I don't know, let's find out.
You will indeed. Okay, I'll leave it to you.
Okay, thank you. Hi, good. How are you? Did you come out for
Well, actually, I came out because of something,
Oh, okay.
but I'm happy to help you as well.
Well, we would like to know whether or not the councillors would like to give the announcement in here, or whether they'd like to come outside.
So, we're actually, so what's the answer?
Well, we have a public announcement to make, and we need at least a few of the councillors present.
Oh, okay.
So whichever councillor
Can't-
here
that button's
will
broken.
take
I can't
15
do that.
minutes.
Have you made an appointment?
Well, we don't need to make a community public
Yeah,
announcement.
but
Well,
that,
you might need to make an appointment.
yeah, no, I know,
Regardless
it's
of
just
the
a
council's
Zoom
available for that.
button.
So I understand that you
Yeah, no, it's broken.
want to do this, but it can be difficult
Okay,
given
can we
it.
make the announcement in here then?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay,
Go right.
great, thank you. Would you like to make your way in there? We can put in there. clap for that. Only act in the capacity of a public witness to the announcements of the intentions made. Unless you're specifically requested by a member of the parties proclaiming or serving the lawful notice, no witnesses are to interfere in the process in any manner. Any attendees of the gathering who are witnesses who threaten, intimidate, use any force, any violence, any action or use of words can be reasonably construed as an act of violence, harm, threat or intimidation will be immediately and without recourse removed from the gathering, and police will remove you if necessary. So this lawful notice has been prepared, and it's going to be handed to Local Council have had for many years the ability to create bylaws with absolutely no oversight, no parliamentary process, no upper house, no lower house, and no public input as to the creation of these laws whatsoever. No country, unless it's a dictatorship, allows any servants of the people, because that's what they are, to create laws in this way. Our Constitution has very, very strict guidelines in regards to the implementation of laws in this country, and we have a process of oversight to prevent a situation where the people serve the government instead of the government serving the people, and that's the way it should be. All that's necessary for councillors to create a bylaw is a simple 4-step process. They discuss it, they record it and print the minutes, they stamp the minutes and with the City Council seal. They each sign the minutes and it's done. It really is as simple as that. If we allow this to continue, there will be no Parliament to create laws. We won't need a Parliament to create laws. They will simply do away with the whole process and impose their will on local councils so that they can do their dirty work for them. This way they can wash their hands of any obligations to create laws within the bounds of our Constitution, and our parliaments will simply remain in place to give us the illusion of democracy with no real practical function. In the coming election, local councils around the country are pushing through private membership businesses like the MAV and ALGA, who are private membership organisations, to run a referendum for the recognition of local councils in our Constitution. We already had a referendum in relation to this and we said no. It was a very clear no. We said no to allowing local councils to exercise powers on behalf of the state, and we also said no to allowing local councils to create bylaws. But guess what? The local councils are doing both. And what's more, they're now referred to as local government when they were not recognised as a tier of government, nor did we agree at any point, including in the referendum, to recognise them as a third tier of government in any form or shape. There was a meeting that was apparently public on the 16th of January in regards to putting forward this motion to have them to run a referendum for the recognition of local government. But it was not made public to us. So this was a public forum, but it was not made public to us. Furthermore, it was held in Sydney. So I don't know how public from Melbourne are meant to get to Sydney. Our team is very well aware of the goings-on in relation to local government. Yet we didn't know of any such public hearing. We did, however, locate the transcripts of the hearing. And I would just like to read to you some of the comments, one of the comments in particular that were made by Professor Anne Truby. One of the reasons that is sometimes stated is that local government is a third level of government in Australia and it should be recognised in the Constitution. This, I think, is a bit of a misleading argument. Technically, local government is not a third independent level of government in Australia. It is a sub-level of government of state government. It's a worry, and it should concern everyone for many, many reasons. So, We were ignored by the Parliament when we voted no, but they did it anyway. We were ignored by Council when we pointed out to them that they're unable to create bylaws, which is actually something that's stated in the Local Government Act as well. And it specifically says that they cannot create any bylaws and impose any fines, taxes or penalties, but as we all know, that's happening as well. So the worry is that despite all of these laws in place, and all of them have been ignored, despite the referendums, despite the protections that have been put in place, it's all been ignored. So what's the point in going through the same farce all over again? Because law or not, they are a law unto themselves, and that's what they've demonstrated today. Our homes are not an economic opportunity for anyone. We need to start doing what's right. Because everyone here knows the difference between right and wrong. Ultimately, the highest authority in the land is you. You are the law. And we each need to stand with each other. So it doesn't matter if the issue doesn't affect you. It's your duty as a constituent of this community and as a citizen of this country to not only defend your own rights, but those of others, even if they don't know that they're a victim. This is exactly what we're doing today.
Five days later, we got a call from Nicole Warner. This was the day before the next council meeting, which was scheduled to occur on the 5th of February. She wanted to know who the unruly group were at the Melton Council on the 31st of January, which is the video that you just saw of that meeting. We told her that there was no other group there, just us, and wherever she got the reports from, they were obviously false. She said that she knew that it wasn't us and in fact commended us on our behaviour, but she was still baffled by these reports of some other group. She asked if we would be attending the meeting the following day at Melton Council and we told her we would be. She also asked if we'd be recording, and again we said we would be, because Council up until that point had not, as required by the Local Government Act, produced a copy of the bylaw that they were trying to enforce and couldn't even prove its existence. And therefore our right to record the public meeting stands until they can evidence otherwise. And then after a short but pleasant conversation, mainly chit-chat, Nicole said she'd be attending the meeting. The impression we were given was that she would be there as an interested member of the public. She actually clarified that by stating that she would be there in uniform but seated at the back.
Then saying that I am more than happy to meet with the group and also one-on-one, but considering the previous manner of which some of these community members have conducted themselves, particularly in this forum, I will not be intending to be holding a public forum at the time. If it is inappropriate as a matter of their opinion, I guess. And if not, when will the Mayor conduct a public forum for her ward and her constituents? As I mentioned,
the determination is made by the Council. 2 terms that they are on the highest possible. Again, it's the Council to make that determination. Whether it's performance-based is a judgment. Why do their constituents not have a say? Well, as I said, it's one of the items publicly advertised in the adoption of the budget, and public notification is quite given, so there's an opportunity for submissions to be made with respect to that item. Therefore, constituents can have an input and it's all done in accordance with the provisions of the Local Government Act. Act.
Can I just ask the person in the chamber, in the gallery, please refrain from videotaping? Gentlemen?
Yeah, you can ask.
I'm giving you a warning.
Okay.
Can you please remove your video from?
You were asked to provide a copy of the local law.
There's no talking.
No, you have to provide, and you had more than a month. We asked you about on the 17th of December. So you're threatening me now. So now you're threatening me.
No, I'm not threatening.
Yes, you are. You're threatening to have me removed.
Please remove this gentleman.
You're threatening to have removed when you are unable. When you are
Excuse me, under Surveillance
hang on,
Act.
let me just say something.
You know the Surveillance
You've been
Act?
asked to leave.
Okay.
If you choose not to leave, you're resisting.
Okay.
I'm not resisting you.
We asked the council to
You've been
provide us a
asked to
copy.
leave.
Come and discuss the matter
discussion.
outside so don't disrupt the meeting any further.
Where's the copy we asked them for?
Please stand and come outside.
Okay?
We asked them for a
Please
copy of the
stand
local
up
law,
and come outside.
and they did not provide
We
it.
can follow
Please
that up.
stand
Come
up and come
outside,
outside.
please.
You've
Well-
had an opportunity, excuse me, Nicole Warner, acting
We're not arguing.
inspector.
We're not
You
arguing.
need to leave
You
now,
were
please.
supplied the documentation that made this legal. Why are you
Please
ignoring
stand
it?
Please come
Please
out.
stand.
Hang on. Let
No, that's assault. That's assault.
Put the camera on him. Assault.
You've been told back off.
Please come out of the office.
Back off.
If you touch me, I'll get you done for assault.
Well, you can do that. Come on.
Seriously, you know the law. You know the law. Touch me as a sovereign citizen, you cannot touch me. My sovereignty rolls over you. You cannot touch me.
Please come out.
You cannot touch me. If you touch me, you're going to a criminal court, mate. That's assault. That is assault. You're going to a criminal court, mate. Excuse me.
Let's make
Excuse me. Can you get your hands off me? I'm leaving.
Come outside with the camera.
I've already told you. You touched me now.
Good at upholding them. What about our human rights? What about our human rights? No, you had an opportunity to address this beforehand. Why didn't you?
I'm asking you a question. Show us some leniency. I'm asking you a question, sir. Oi.
What's your name?
Why was she manhandled?
Everyone's name. Because I'm going to get you done for assault.
Which law did she break that she was manhandled? Which law?
Police said there's no reason to manhandle me out of that place.
Okay, can I just
I'm going to
say
get every
something?
single one of you.
Can I just say something?
I need all your names, thank you.
Under the Local Government Act,
What action are you arresting me?
Hey, and which law is he breaching?
Just relax.
Which law is he breaching?
Look at this. Keep your distance, sir. We touched this lady here. Hey, we touched her. You did.
We'll supply you all our names. That's I want you to do right now. John Clark is my name. John Clark.
What are you doing pushing me? Hey,
Back off!
Let's go! I got to sign that! I got to sign this, weird!
Calm down.
I'll sue you!
Just calm down.
Do you see I've got an injured knee?
Okay, you heard what you
You
said.
just hurt me!
Settle down.
So I need everyone's officer's name here, thank you.
Now, can I just say something, Nicole?
Let's get away from the meeting at this stage, so they can
Okay.
You've been asked for by the council.
Because you've been handling it lady.
And my question to all these officers is, when were you employed by the council?
You've been refused. Hey! Back off! Back off!
You touching me again! Come on! Are you touching me again?
Back off!
Don't touch me! I will sue you! Don't touch me! We're asking for our rights! You're not worried about our rights! You're the police! You're the police enforcing our rights! Do you know what the council's doing to us in our family?
Calm down. Calm down.
Taking us off our land! That's illegal!
No. And when are we going to say it? Go pull them out and let us have our say.
I don't need a man in there. The woman
Let
can
us
sort
have
that out.
our let us.
Don't antagonise
They won't
us,
talk to us. Is that lawful? If you want lawful, go and take
You touch her, we're going to
talk to them outside.
You've got your name tagged.
John Clark, my name is
John
John
Clark.
Clark.
And your rank? Senior Sergeant at Caroline Street.
search her in the direction and she's moved. Where are we?
To intimidate us.
We don't know how many people there are. That's the problem.
It's only us here in the forest, you know. So when you look at that,
This is the way we should be dealing, having a chat. On what charge?
calm down. You're not going to get anywhere. Calm down.
I'm not arguing with you, I'm saying the facts. That's all I'm doing.
Show us the
Oh no, one more.
That is yours. Okay, can we go outside? Can we go
This is it. Somewhere offences it.
I need to go and get my stuff. I need to go and get my stuff. No, you will not touch my property.
In that case, you can wait for the meeting.
No, I want to go in there. What if it's taken? What if it's taken during? Okay, you guarantee me that it won't be taken.
I can't guarantee it.
Well, then let me go in and get it. No, I want to go in there. He's going in. Why not?
Wait, let's go outside and talk about
I want my
the seal and the signatures to say that that act is followed. They know their law. Okay, so
Alright, come on, let's go outside and talk about it.
they know their law, why they, you know.
You're on YouTube, fellas. How do you like it? The world. You're on display to the world to see your disgraceful behaviour. Upholding unlawful laws. You are peacekeepers.
Did you swear the oath?
Now, prior to actually going to the meeting, the local government says that they must provide on demand a copy of the local law that they're referring to, and they must cite the exact provision that they're relying on to enforce this. And they didn't do it.
And to this day they haven't done it.
to this day, they still have not shown that. And then they do the same thing. So they're saying, stuff you, we don't care what the law is. We're only going to use the Local Government Act when it suits us. And they still didn't do it. They still didn't even, in the very least, cite it in here.
Unfortunately though, Rena, as you know, from the police perspective, we're not here to police that or police your cause or uphold your cause or uphold theirs.
I understand that. So all we want to know is, are you here to uphold the law? Because they're breaking it. That's the bottom line.
We're here to make sure that there's no disruptive or violent
Stop.
Let us speak, please.
It's your job to uphold our human rights.
Come on.
Peacekeepers.
Come on.
Let us speak.
The only people disrupting the meeting are these people by relying on something that doesn't even exist. They're relying on an act or a bylaw, actually. It's not even an act. They're relying on a bylaw that doesn't even exist.
Okay, but there's other ways to go about expressing or holding them to account, if that's what you think.
Well, how can you hold them to account?
They won't
We
do that.
when we didn't even do anything wrong.
They've had 2 months.
So
No, you
what
can't
we
say
threw
that.
people out for, removed people for, was because of the behaviour. Okay?
The
Excuse us,
behaviour
what behaviour? What
standing up at the door.
Let us speak. Let us speak.
She asked us to put away the camera when there's no such bylaw that says that we put away the camera. And even if there were, they can't even show us the first one that says that they could impose a $500 penalty, let alone one that says that we're not allowed to record. And there's no such thing in their local meeting law that says that we are not allowed to record. And in any case, the Local Government Act, which is in itself unlawful, but that's another story, they're not even adhering to that. This is the authority, this is the act that governs their authority. And that act trumps whatever it is that they're trying to do.
Rena, unfortunately, the meeting became out of order.
This
very
is
quickly.
They're only here for the council, they're not here for the people.
Whoa, everyone, just
Argue
a minute, 1 second.
that, okay, and we can't
Please,
take sides either way.
one at a
We
time.
won't take sides either way. Okay?
You are. You're taking their side.
You need to read
Yes,
the
you
law.
are.
Can you repeat your oath?
Abusively,
Did you make an
Could you repeat your oath?
Who did you make an oath to? The council or the people?
May I interject for 1 minute? Excuse me, I'm going to break. I'm not going to do anything untoward.
Can someone hold this? My arm is going dead.
Experience today that comes from the police, I'm sorry. We didn't do anything.
You don't
that
want
was,
to
was
press
being
anything.
Well, shall we arrest you?
We were dragged out of there. That's what I just want to draw to attention.
sorry,
That's your
We were
opinion,
dragged out
sir.
of there. I
That's
was
your
dragged out of
opinion.
there.
And you're entitled to your opinion, but
I've got it on
is-
video, so I was dragged out of there. So at the end of the
But
day,
the video will speak
I
for
find that
But
that
this
is
is the
my
thing,
human
okay?
right being abused.
This is the
I'm
thing.
sorry.
We are not relying on an opinion when we say we have the right to record on in there.
And we're going back in to record unless you can show us that we haven't got the
We're
right.
relying on
Just
facts.
tell them that. We're
We're
going back
relying
in.
on
Unless they show us that they've
legislation.
got the right to do this. No,
They
we're going back
They
in.
work for the corporation.
I know, let's go, buddy. Let's go back in. Let's go back in and start recording. They say they've got nothing to prove.
Let him speak. Let him speak,
That-
public officer.
Trumps, if you like, a council bylaw. So I'm at the moment trying to get hold of that piece of information, make it available, which
It's in
means
the
that
1999 Surveillance Act.
yeah, but you've got to find the exact rules that applies to it.
Well, it's also in the Recording Devices Act that says that you are allowed to record if you are protecting your lawful interest, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Okay, and one thing for these people here, one of the things you need to bring to the meeting is a copy of that act that you can show to them that they are breaking the law themselves. So that's you would be asked to do. There's further action and
Bring it down and not
bring it
play
down.
it. It's good.
And it only seems one-sided simply because you're telling us that we have to adhere to something that they can't even prove exists, and yet we're clearly demonstrating that this act exists, and yet you're not making the same requirements of them. It's all the onus is on us. Why is the onus on us?
It's not. The only requirements we have is that that meeting takes place peacefully and without unlawful disruption.
So videoing wasn't peaceful. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah,
Video
the
isn't peaceful.
Yeah, it was what happened in the aftermath of that.
No,
that's not the question.
And you assisted to break the law.
Can we get one thing straight here?
So you
Videoing
broke
was
the law.
only problem.
Yes.
It was only a disruptive problem. Now I want to know simply, is videoing disruptive?
The behaviour.
No,
that wasn't the question. Answer the question.
You're not answering my question.
Answer the
You have no right
question.
over me because you've got nothing to say.
So let's just get to the facts. So come March 5th meeting about a month later, the audio was actually taken from the Melton City Council's website. We again asked the question about the local law. Basically, where is it? Well, here's the audio response.
First point I will make is that there is no requirement for any local law to be ratified by the state government. The requirement is that it must be gazetted in the Government Gazette, which is an action taken by the council, and in the case of this specific local law it wasn't gazetted.
Well, we beg to differ. Section 119 of the Local Government Act for Victoria 1989 actually lists a whole set of procedures and requirements in order to create a local bylaw. So it's not just a matter of actually submitting it to the Minister to be gazetted.
It's also not a requirement to have a commencement date in the local law, because under the Act there's a specific provision that says in the absence of a stated commencement date in the local law, it commences on the day on which it is made by the council. So the lack of a date of commencement is immaterial.
Immaterial? Are you kidding me? So, what? Are we just making things up now? There is no specific provision that says that in the absence of a stated commencement date that the local law commences on the day on which the council made it. It doesn't say that at all. What it actually says under section 121, that it comes into effect on the day it was made. Nothing about the absence of a commencement date. So the theory here is that it comes into effect from the day that it was made. But in order for that to be proven what day it was made, the minutes must be presented and they must be signed and sealed. Problem is, they don't exist either.
Further, the validity of a local law can only be decided by a court of competent jurisdiction, and in the absence of any decision or ruling by such a court, council relies on both its local law meeting procedure and the Local Government Act with respect to its meeting procedures.
Interpretation? You don't like it? Take us to court. And on another occasion?
We have had legal advice that it would be considered an administrative defect and would not invalidate the local law.
I just love how the excuses get more and more creative every day. What a wonderful imagination our council has. Anything that's ever done unlawfully in the future can just be put down to an administrative defect. Too bad if it affected real people and real lives. That is a very dangerous precedent to set. At the same meeting, they put a motion forward to commence a statutory process for making of the new Meeting Procedure Local Law No. 2, 2013 almost 2 years ahead of time. Our council is citing changes in the Local Government Legislation Amendment Act of 2012 as the reason why they need to do this now. But new legislation is constantly introduced that would impact local council laws across the country. So why the sudden itch to revise and revamp the local law? We think it has more to do with the fact that local council are now seeking to plug the hole in the question of the validity of their Local Procedures Meeting Law 2004. What's interesting about the proposed changes is that it places greater restrictions on residents at question time during council meetings and increasing penalties for essentially speaking out of turn. What's very telling about one particular amendment that they seek to make has to do with penalties. They propose to change penalties from a fixed dollar penalty to a penalty per unit as per Section 5(3) of the Monetary Units Act. Now, bear in mind that Section 115A, that each penalty point has a value of $140.84, and also that penalty units apply to contraventions of the local law and only a maximum of 20 are allowed. They cited the reason from the change from a fixed penalty to penalty units is that our council believes that this is a better way to create a deterrent for most offences and to also reflect the seriousness of the offences. Well, one of the things that they applied the 20 penalty points to, which is, remember, the maximum, is failing to remain silent. What that means is that instead of a $500 penalty, now residents could be hit with a fine of over $2,800. In the proposed local law at Section 6.7, Part B, Petitions and Joint Letters, it talks about and describes the procedure that councillors and council officers must use to submit petitions and joint letters to the Chief Executive Officer. In Part G, it says any person who fraudulently signs a petition or joint letter which is presented to the council is guilty of an offence. And what penalty does that offence of essentially fraud attract? All of 5 penalty units. That's right. Part 13 of the local law specifically says that any person failing to obey the direction of the chairperson relating to the conduct of the meeting and the maintenance of order will be fined 20 penalty units, almost $3,000. But if you conduct yourself fraudulently, then the penalty is essentially a fine of just over $700. Now, given that the penalty points were assigned to each offence on the basis of their seriousness, this, I think, is an indication of our council's view on fraud. Now, is this kind of reaction and behaviour unique to our council? Well, as you'll see from the following footage, it's certainly not unique to Melton Council.
We have the Sydney Greater Geelong Council Meeting Procedures Local Law 2009.
Has it been signed?
And it's 4.7 underneath that, so no video or audio recording of proceedings of council meetings shall be permitted without specific approval by resolution of the meeting.
I accept that. Could you please provide us a copy of the local law?
You certainly can. We'll do that in due course. Okay, thank you.
No, actually, under Schedule 8 of the Local Government Act 1989, you must provide a copy of the local law on demand.
We will soon do so. We have a copy here. We can hand that down. It's also available online for you.
Yep, I understand that, but if you provide that copy for us, then we'll cease recording.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last bit. I'm sorry.
I said if you provide a copy of the local law, you can do that now?
Yes, we're doing that now. Yes.
Yes, okay. Well, we'll still record until we receive the information.
Well, they will provide it to you now.
Could you please show me exactly where that is?
It's gazetted and it's on the website.
Okay, well, just of the local government act, every local law. Section 120 of the Local Government Act 1989 says availability of local laws.
I'm ready. Just want to make sure you're ready, brother. Here it is. Show me the money.
We want to see the copy that the councillors signed. It should be archived.
Show me the money. Yeah! Louder! Show me the money. That's it, brother, but you got to yell last time. Show me the money.
And available on demand.
This is not, we're not during normal council business hours like normal operating office hours. No.
Well, it's available on demand and you're open. Oh, so you're closed, so everyone should be leaving then. Are you open or closed? You're the one that's trying to enforce the no recording.
That is our local law governing the conduct of our meetings.
Well then, show me the local law.
Show me the money!
We just did.
That's not assented, no.
So assented.
And assented.
Could you, is there, I understand what you're saying, is there some point you wish to make that you're suggesting we're operating improperly?
No, I'm just suggesting that we have, I'm not suggesting, I'm actually claiming that we do have a right to record.
Now, it's clear in our local laws that there is no...
I
that
accept
is not
that,
permitted.
show me the local law.
Show me the money!
We have shown to the
No, that's
local law
not
with
local
respect.
The assented copy of the local law.
You should have all signed it.
Yeah, I'm not sure we're going to get much... We do want to proceed with the business of the meeting.
And we
They
just
should
want
have
to
all
record
signed
a
it.
public hearing. Is there a problem with that? What's the problem?
Just taking some advice at the moment. If you... There's a particular point you'd like to make in doing this. I'm happy to hear that very quickly, but then we need to proceed with the business of the council.
All we want to do is just record the proceedings.
Well, that's not in accordance with our local law, and I do ask you to desist with that,
Well,
please.
it's still to prove to me that the local law actually exists.
It would be in the minutes of our meeting from 2000, whenever it was approved in 2009 by the previous council.
If you want to continue the meeting, you do so. Until you can show that we do not have the right to record, then we're going to continue to record. We have nothing more to say on the matter, thank you.
And so the meeting was adjourned and they called in cavalry. The sergeant that came down to the Geelong City Council was speaking to the Federal Police. We actually spoke to them on the phone also. The end result? We were told it was a civil matter and that we needed to take it to court. In many ways this is absolutely correct, but not for the reasons you might think. More about that in part 3. Let's move on now to the next meeting at Melton City Council. Now by this stage we're beginning to think that there's something seriously wrong with local government level. The rhetoric doesn't seem to coincide with their actions. All this talk of transparency, accountability, and the idea that they're answerable to the public is certainly not what we've seen to date. We must add though that the one saving grace of the Geelong district is its media. At least the point of the whole exercise wasn't lost on them. They indeed began to question Geelong Council's response to our recording when they stated, and I quote, "We might think that, given federal parliament has been broadcast on both radio and television for years, it is our democratic right to have this sort of openness and transparency readily available." Let's move on now to the next meeting at Melton City Council. This one was held on the 9th of April. Now unfortunately, there's no audio available on the Melton City Council website for this one, unlike all the other meetings. This is quite strange. However, to their credit, when we mentioned it, they did make it available. We had to enhance the audio, so here it is.
.au and what do they do, and two who are aka proprietylimited.com.au and what do they do?
And this is from Rena Eliade. Yep. They're actually a family business.
Next question.
Can I just get clarification on the question?
You're more than welcome to Google what they do.
What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about? What you...
Sorry? You're more than welcome to Google what they are.
What you talking about, Willis?
They are a family business.
Well, we have, and they don't exist. They don't exist.
And I can certainly vouch for them too.
Well, then can you tell me what they do?
Next question from Ms. Eliade is, do any of the councillors have any interest?
Sorry, I want that question answered.
That is my answer. If you don't like it.
The question was not whether or not it was a family business. The question was, who are they and what do they do?
They are a family business
And what do they do?
and you are now out of order.
What do they do?
Apart from it being a personal question, Ms.
You
Iliades,
claim donations from...
It's a family business.
Okay, what does a family business do? Because they don't exist. I can tell you that now, they do not exist.
Madam Mayor, point of order. We're having a dialogue. Could we just please resume?
Thank you, Mr. Tory.
Next question from Ms. Eliade is, do any of the councillors have any interest or declare any interest, even third-party interest, in real estate, property development, any consultancy services, planning services, etc. within either the City of Melton and or the State of Victoria? To answer that question would take a reference to the Declaration of Interest returns which each councillor are required to submit, both the primary return and the periodic ordinary return. Those registers, or that register and those returns are available for inspection by any member of the public on application. The details of what's in those returns I can't quote to you this evening, but like I said, it's a public register and it's available for public viewing.
Well, just to make it a little easier, if each of the councillors...
Sorry, Ms. Iliades, I'm not asking you for a dialogue.
I'm asking for clarification.
What's your clarification?
Okay, I want to know which councillors in particular are going to declare that interest so that we can, so instead of looking them all up, at least we can isolate which ones that we can...
I can assure you, Ms. Iliades, that if there is a conflict of interest...
Just a simple yes or no from each of the 7 councillors is fine. We don't want details, just a yes or no, so at least we know which ones to look into when we access those reports, that's all.
Again, I can't give you that information tonight.
No, I'm not asking for the details, just for each of the councillors to respond yes or no if they have any personal interest in development companies, consultancy companies, planning, stuff like that, just outside of the council. If each of the councillors could say yes or no, that's it, and then we'll look into the details.
I suggest that you look into the details and you can find out for yourself.
So you can't answer yes or no
I won't
now.
allow it. I won't allow it.
Why not? We're hiding.
We're not hiding anything,
Well,
sir.
then answer yes
And you
or
are
no.
out of order.
No, we're out of order. You're
You
out of
are
order.
out of order, and
You're
if you continue out of order, I will have you removed.
Oh, really?
Simple as that.
Yeah, because you always get away with
Excuse me, Madam Mayor, just a simple yes or no will do.
We'll find out, don't worry.
Do you have any interest in property outside of your role as a mayor? Do any of these councillors have any interest in property or
The
property
question was
development?
answered by Mr. Tory. Thank you, Madam.
didn't ask
No, the
Mr.
question
Tory.
was
We
not
asked
The question was answered. I'm not having a dialogue. Ms. Iliades, you are warned. You are out of
The
order.
question was not answered.
I will ask you to remain silent or I'll have you removed.
So are you refusing to answer?
I will have you removed, thank you.
Well, you're going to have to throw me out.
I'll have you removed onto the other. I'll ask for an attorney or the police to have you removed. Thank you.
There seems to be a consistent but very curious effort on the part of council to not only stifle debate but obfuscate information sought by the community. We wondered, what's with the lack of transparency? So we started an intense but short research campaign. We only had to scratch the surface and we found some very disturbing information. We only had to scratch the surface and we found some very disturbing information.
Can I just get clarification on the question?
You're more than welcome to Google what they do.
Sorry?
You're more than welcome to Google what they are.
We had already done our Googling, so to speak, but we also had a barrage of information from anonymous sources. Combined with our own efforts, this is what we came up with. It turns out that both husband and wife ran campaigns for council. Kathy Majlik had declared in her campaign donations $5,190 from centremanagement.com.au Proprietary Limited. Andrew Majlik, on the other hand, had claimed $500 from AKA Proprietary Limited and $4,405 from centremanagement.com.au Proprietary Limited. A total between them of $10,095. That is, $9,595 from centremanagement.com.au Proprietary Limited and a total of $500 from AKA Proprietary Limited. When we googled Centre Management Proprietary Limited, we didn't actually find any operating business. This is quite surprising, particularly when you consider that the company name actually has a .com.au in it. We did, however, find something interesting about centremanagement.com.au Proprietary Limited. They used to be called Rent to Buy Real Estate Proprietary Limited. So we googled Rent to Buy Real Estate Proprietary Limited, thinking surely there's a website about that somewhere. Well, we didn't actually find anything, but what we did find is an article about rent to buy schemes, one in particular by Genman Real Estate, who's an advocate for ethics in real estate. In his article, Rent to Buy Schemes, he calls it a new name for an old scam. So, what are rent to buy schemes? Neil Genman from Neil Genman Real Estate says that the great Australian dream is harder than ever before, and across the nation tens of thousands of families are locked out of homes they can never afford to buy. Instead of renting a home you'll never own, you can now rent a home that you will own. Surely that's a cause for celebration. Neil Genman says that this is sadly not the case. He says that the simple fact is that rent-to-buy schemes are dangerous scams and they're designed by predators who prey on the poor. They're a complete rip-off and he thinks that they should be outlawed. Victims of these scams, many of whom don't even realise that they're victims until it's too late, are ripped off in three ways. He says that first they're charged an exorbitant amount of rent. Genman gives a great example in the rent-to-buy scheme, but we actually found one of our own. We decided to check the rental value of the property that you just saw advertised in the rent-to-buy scheme at $584 a week. That same property is advertised along others, and as you can see here, a comparable home rents for around $300 a week. Same deal, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 2 garage spaces, double the rent. Okay, so that's the first part of the rip-off. Buyers actually pay double the market rate for their rent. Secondly, as well as the exorbitant rent, buyers, or in this case victims, pay an exorbitant price for the home. So if we were to stick with the same example, the purchase price being asked for the home is $380,000. In the example Genman gives, he said that he had a local agent estimate that its real value would be between $250,000 and $270,000. So on top of the double rent, the victim is also paying at least $100,000 too much for the home. So from the moment they sign up, they have an instant negative equity, meaning that they owe at least $100,000 more than what the home is actually worth. The third rip-off with rent-to-buy schemes is, of course, that the buyers are not the owners of the homes they're buying. No, the homes remain in the name of the rogues running the scams. So quite simply that means that if the buyers pay the rogues and the rogues go broke and their companies collapse, as many of them do, then the buyers, who have done nothing wrong, are instantly evicted. Now, whether or not that was the former business of centremanagement.com.au is yet to be discovered, although at this time we can't think of what else rent to buy would actually mean, particularly when you consider that Andrew Majlik is actually in real estate.
Can I just get clarification on the question? You're more than welcome to Google what they do.
That advice, even though it may have been given in arrogance, was more invaluable than the mayor will ever know.
When you need to know something that you don't already know, don't ask me for the answer, just go and Google that shit, yo.
In fact, Mr. Majlik has been in real estate under many names. Let's just review a few of them. Now, all of these real estate names have always been registered in Caroline Springs. Well, there's been Andrew Majlik real estate using his own name in Caroline Springs Boulevard, Edge 36, which seems to have changed its name. It's been discovered since that Edge 36 is the project name for the apartments at University Hill, and RPG Sales are actually the appointed agents. And then there's been My Investment Manager, Melbourne's property management specialist, just to mention a few. One, however, seems to stand out from the rest, not because of its name, but because of its location. All the other agencies were located in Caroline Springs. This one, however, is located at South Bank. Now that's a long way from Caroline Springs, but more about that in a moment. Now, what of AKA Proprietary Limited? We did actually search all over Google for AKA Proprietary Limited. We also searched the ASIC website for AKA Proprietary Limited. There is no AKA Proprietary Limited. However, there was an AKA Vic Proprietary Limited, and happens to be in South Bank, the same place for the real estate agency address that was mentioned a moment ago. An anonymous user on our network had contacted us and had given us some information, and so it was just a matter of confirming it now. Some of the information that was included was information about an organisation called the Trustee for AKA Trust. Now that sounded familiar, so our first port of call was ABN Lookup. We looked up the Trustee for AKA Trust.
There's always more to learn. Who needs college? With Google. Who needs doctors? With Google. Who needs boyfriends? With Google. Who needs anything? With Google. Google, you're amazing. And Google that shit. Google that shit. Google that shit. Don't ask me. Google that shit.
From there we found a business called Substantia Property Group. So we decided to see if there's a website for this Substantia Property Group. Prepare an individual acquisition plan and finance strategy. So a little bit of property investment meets financial advice.
Google that shit, yo.
But at this stage, we're not really sure who owns or runs Substantia Property Group. There is one sure way to find out. Oz Registry. It lists every single .com.au domain name ever registered. It seems that this www name was actually registered on the same day that the business Substantia Property Group was actually registered. It's also owned by the same holder, that is, the Trustee for AKA Trust. And to our surprise, Andrew Majlik, the Mayor's husband, owns this business. First we had to check the pecuniary interest register to make sure that what we found was actually not hidden, but in fact declared by the councillors. Even an attempt at this effort was met with almost what we've come to expect as standard: much resistance. We were asked to make an appointment prior to viewing the register, which we did. We had asked prior to attending the appointment whether or not it would be possible to receive a photocopy of the public register. That happened on the 10th of April. We were told it would be looked into and they would respond. After completing the relevant forms, we were told by Tracy Spiteri that Council was not obligated to provide us with a photocopy of the public register. Instead, we decided to take a photo of it with our smartphone. Tracy Spiteri, the governance officer, immediately snatched the register from our hands and stated that no record was able to be taken of the register. When asked where that information is published, she referred to an act. The Act specifically said that the person who makes an application to view the register is entitled to a fair and accurate copy. She told us this is the advice that she had received from the MAV and also the advice that she had received from the Department of Local Government, or DPCP. After debating what a true and accurate copy is, she went off to speak with Mr. Kelvin Torrey. At this point, we started to record the conversation for our records.
In the middle of a meeting
Yeah,
at the
that's
moment.
fine.
Now, I've mentioned to him what you've said, and he is satisfied that a handwritten copy is what he is prepared to
So
allow you to do.
he's defining what a fair and accurate copy is.
If you choose not to do a handwritten copy, he's more
So
than
you're
happy
denying-
for you. Can I
so
please
you're
finish my
denying a copy
sentence
of
like
the-
I let you finish
Yeah,
yours?
okay.
If you do not wish to do a handwritten copy from the documents, I'm more than willing to provide you, and I have to sit and observe because that's what I'm
A handwritten
required to
copy
do.
is not a fair and accurate one.
No, that's right, because I
It
can
be
write
If you
down
choose
whatever
not
I
to
want.
do that, he is more than happy for me to hand back your application and for you to make a complaint to the Ombudsman or through the Inspectorate.
Okay, so you're refusing to allow me to take a fair and accurate copy of the
A fair and accurate
document.
copy being a handwritten copy is what
Right,
Cal has
so-
determined to be a fair and accurate copy.
So is that how a fair and accurate copy is defined in the Act? How's it
It's
defined?
not even a copy of it, if it's
How's it
handwritten.
defined?
It is defined as a fair and accurate copy, and
Yeah,
there is no
what
definition of it.
is-
And Cal has said, as the person who is responsible for this register,
Stay here, please.
that if you choose not to do a handwritten copy,
So you're refusing to allow me to take a copy of the documentation?
a digital copy of any shape or
Does it
form,
specifically say I'm not allowed to take a digital copy?
Cal
or
has
is
made
just-
the determination that he will
And
not allow a
who's-
digital
hang
copy.
on, who exactly is Cal? Isn't Cal a public servant?
If you choose not to
Or is
take it,
is Cal the interpreter of the Act?
if you're asking me as a legal person, I can't answer you because I am not a legal person. I'm telling you
No,
the
I know,
advice
but
I've
you're
been
telling me
advised.
that Calvin Torrey has interpreted it as meaning
the-
fair and accurate is
Under the
a
advice we've
handwritten copy.
received through DPCD, and that is
Who's the
that we're under no
DPCD?
obligation to provide you a photocopy. We have made a
So you're
determination.
refusing?
I'm not refusing for you
Well,
to
you just said that you're
inspect.
under no obligation and you're choosing the option of not being under an
We are
obligation.
under no
So
obligation
therefore
to
you're
provide.
refusing.
Can I please finish my sentence?
Yes, you can.
We are under no obligation to provide you a photocopy. You are able to make a handwritten copy of the documents as they're provided to you under your application in accordance with the Act. Should you choose not to do that, then I can give you your application back and he is happy.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but on page 27 of the Pecuniary Interest Guidelines, it actually states, Section 107, Register of Return, the register is an important public record. Councils must make it available for inspection to any member of the public upon request during ordinary office hours. Copies of the returns may also be provided to members of the public either free of charge or with the payment of a reasonable copying charge. Section 12B. The return is also relied upon in complaints concerning pecuniary interest breaches and issues relating to probity. So the question is, where did Melton Council get their information from? Or for that matter, the CEO?
If you choose not to do that, then I can give you your application back and he is happy for you to make
No,
it.
how can I prove that any of those documents ever existed? I've just got my notes.
The only people that are allowed to look at these documents is a person who's applied to inspect it. You've
Which
applied
is
to
me,
inspect
yeah.
the document, so you are the
And
only
does it say
person
anywhere on that document that I agreed that I wouldn't photograph any of the documentation?
under the...
No, the document I signed...
is in accordance with the Act, yes?
Yes,
and
have
that
I-
means you've inspected the interest maintained under Section 81 of the Act. And
Great.
Section 81
Now,
of the Act
yep.
also
Does it
requires...
specifically say I'm not allowed to photocopy it?
What it states is...
No, I want to see a section that specifically says I'm not allowed to photocopy it.
Person not publish any information derived from the register unless that information is a fair and accurate summary or copy of the information derived from the register. The person, where is it? The register may only be inspected at the office of the council during normal business hours. And
so what does it say?
The chief executive person must allow a person to inspect the register if that person has previously made written application to do so.
I'm just interested in a section that says specifically, because if it's not mentioned...
Summary or copy of the information in the register.
A person must not publish any information derived from the register. I'm not publishing it, I'm taking a photocopy.
But you've just asked how you can prove it's that, so it means you're showing someone else who hasn't made application to see the register.
Hang on. No. Well, what do you mean? Well, no, you're just assuming now.
By handwriting it and me...
No, I want you to show me in that act where it says I'm not allowed to get a photocopy of it.
It doesn't say it in the act.
That's right, so if it's not in there, then it's excluded. It means it is allowed.
It says
if it's not specifically mentioned in any act, then it's excluded.
If you don't want to handwrite the document, I've been asked...
So you're refusing to give me a fair and accurate copy of it?
No, I'm giving you a choice.
So you'd be satisfied that a fair and accurate copy would be my notes?
I think you get the idea, so let's move on. In the pecuniary interest register, it didn't make one single mention of Substantia Property Group. Substantia Property Group was actually registered on the 18th of August 2012, about 2 months before the elections. The elections were held on October the 26th, 2012. Now, what is absolutely fascinating about all of this is that Andrew Majlik's real estate business seems to have gone from a nondescript office out in the western suburbs in Caroline Springs to Southbank within a few short months. That particular office space, level 2, is located in one of Melbourne's iconic cultural hubs. Very upmarket and very expensive. In fact, Servcorp, the agents that lease that space, demand $1,650 a month for a space measuring only 26 metres squared. Now, that's quite a small office space, particularly if you've actually got agents nationally. So, what am I referring to when I talk about a national real estate agency? Well, it seems that Substantia Property Group was looking for real estate licensees and professionals to work in the property investment business in Canberra, ACT. The advertisement of February 2013 specifically called for a dynamic and mature real estate licensee to join its experienced team with a head office based in Melbourne. It said that Substantia Property Group shows its clients a way to financial freedom which is tailored to each of the individual situations. It goes on to say, our professional wealth building program has been created to provide everyday Australians with the expertise and resources to take control of their financial future. Another advertisement appearing around the same time asked for a professional in the Melbourne area. It sought for that individual to commence on an immediate full-time, part-time or contract basis. The terms of employment paid $100,000 a year and specifically mentioned a Mandarin-speaking individual as having an advantage. It said that it was seeking a sales professional with a strong desire to be a highly paid professional with responsible work ethics. It also called for this individual to have exceptional presentation skills and the ability to discuss strategy and finance, particularly investing in property. It seems that this new business, Substantia Property Group, is a far cry from a locally based real estate agent in Caroline Springs. Now, if you remember the Edge 36 apartments for sale by Andrew Majlik, that is actually part of the University Hill precinct. Now, what is the University Hill precinct? The University Hill precinct is actually a development by MAB Corporation. So who are MAB Corporation and why does it matter? Their projects in recent history have been in the Docklands, Port Melbourne, Bundoora, again Port Melbourne and the Docklands, Bundoora, Docklands, so mostly the other side of town and inner city developments. Now, stay with me on this one. I will connect the dots for you. David Hall, the now CEO of MAB Corporation, had joined MAB in 2003 in the role of General Manager for Business Parks. He was responsible for the portfolio of industrial and mixed-use projects, including the National and TransLink Business Parks and University Hill more recently. On the MAB Corporation's website, it says that prior to commencing with MAB, David held a number of executive positions in middle ring and growth area local governments in the areas of property, planning, development and economic development and governance. That's David Hall, top row, second from the left. The Ravenhall Business Park, now formerly called the Orbis Business Park, which was launched in mid-March 2013 by the Planning Minister Matthew Guy, is the first development, to our knowledge, that they've undertaken in the western suburbs, and certainly the first business park out in the western suburbs. We also located minutes from a meeting at the then Melton Shire Council from May 2003. At that time, we had Neville Smith as the CEO, Calvin Torrey, David Hall and Emma Healy as the general managers, all working in the same department. Since David Hall had left for MAB in 2003, we assume he left Melton Shire Council, which is now Melton City Council, and went to work for MAB shortly thereafter. The obvious question here would be, is this the same David Hall that worked as General Manager at Melton Shire Council in 2003 as the David Hall that went from Business Parks Manager to CEO at MAB Corporation? The answer is absolutely yes. So, did Council, and in particular Calvin Torrey, comply with Section 80B Part 2 of the Local Government Act, which says that a member of the Council staff who has a conflict of interest in a matter which they have also delegated power, duty or function must A. not exercise the power or discharge the duty or function, and B. in the case of the CEO, disclose the type of interest and the nature of the interest. So, did Calvin Torrey, being in the same department, disclose this information? So that now raises the question, is the current Mayor aware of David Hall's previous position as General Manager? Well, she has certainly met David Hall, as you can see in this issue of a magazine created for developers, where Kathy Majlik poses for a photo with the board of MAB Corporation back in 2010. It could be considered, in the very least, highly inappropriate for the Mayor's husband, Andrew Majlik, to have an interest in selling property developed by MAB Corporation. And of course, there's more questions. Given the former relationship of the now CEO of the MAB Corporation with Calvin Torrey, the current CEO of Melton City Council, has the same scrutiny been applied to MAB in their development proposals in the same manner and way that it's applied to other developers? Have processes been followed, or have they been overlooked altogether for the benefit of a former colleague? Were there any special favours for MAB Corporation? Would requirements that would apply to other developers relaxed for MAB? Section 208B of the Local Government Act says, Best Value Principles. The best value principles are A. All services provided by a council must meet the quality and cost standards required by Section 208D. Have any services provided by MAB Corporation met the quality and cost standards? And Section B says, subject to Sections 3C2B and 3C2E, all services provided by a council must be responsive to the needs of its community. Were MAB Corporation developments responsive to the needs of the community? Or more to the point, did Melton City Council measure the proposals of MAB Corporation against the requirement to be responsive to the needs of the community?